Limitless TV, Challenge 6. Andrew versus Ashleigh. It is 3-2. It's still all to play for. And this challenge is a classic, guys. Marshmallow towers. Very simply, in the 3-minute time limit, build the tallest tower you can with your spaghetti and your marshmallow. Tallest tower wins. 3, 2, 1, go. Fight is really the game, guys. 30 seconds. Come on now. Oh. Supported. 2, 1. Let go.
It's staying.
That's very good.
It is categorically Andrew is the winner.
It's good.
Hang on.
Well, hey, mine was definitely.
You've definitely won.
Call it, Tim, quickly, call it.
At the time limit, Andrew was the winner, which means that it is 5-3. Isn't it? Is it?
4-2.
4-2 is what it is. It's 4-2, which means Ashleigh, you can't come back. Andrew has officially won the tournament,
I am astounded.
but there is still one to play. So, congratulations, Andrew.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Limitless TV. This is episode 6 of our series on sexuality. We're going to jump straight in to our conversation today because we're following on Andrew, Ashleigh, from our previous episode where we were asking the question, isn't what the Bible has to say about sexuality harmful? Well, Ashleigh, I want to ask you in this episode, isn't what the Bible has to say about sexuality unfair?
I think we might mean two different things when we use the word unfair. So we might be talking about kind of the idea that one person is getting something better than somebody else.
Yeah.
So you know, if you're married, we might think that that person is getting something better than someone who is single, because we think that marriage is better than singleness.
Right.
But the truth that the Bible teaches us is that marriage and singleness are both really good gifts, and it even talks in terms that suggest that singleness might even be a better gift. So in that sense, no, it's definitely not unfair. The other way we might use the word unfair is if we're talking about, well, isn't there one rule for gay people and another rule for straight people? Isn't God asking something of, say, Andrew and I that he's not asking of, say, you? Yeah. And I think, again, the answer to that is no. It's not that there's one rule for gay people and one rule for straight people. It's not that God says, gay people, you have to use your sexualities and steward your sexualities in this way, and straight people, you have to do it in that way. It's that God says to all people, here is the good way for you to use your sexuality. It's kind of a marriage to someone of the opposite sex, or celibate singleness. Those are kind of the options for all people. And God is calling all of us into that. So it's not that there's one rule for one and one for the other. Yeah,
it's really helpful points. And maybe, Andrew, I can actually just pick up on something Ashleigh said there about singleness, because, you know, the point being that often we elevate marriage as like that, or a romantic relationship as that's a better thing than being single. But actually, on the contrary, the Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 that it's better not to marry, right? So why do you think it is that we've elevated marriage above singleness as a better or even like an easier option than singleness?
Yeah, that's so important. I find as an adult single person, people feel sorry for me because I'm single. Even Christians, even though the Bible says it's better, I'm like, shouldn't I feel sorry for you?
Exactly.
And what is that? It's really weird in a sense. The Bible says this, we're in this situation. Why is that? I think, various things. I think part of it is how we have reacted against and gone with our culture. So if you look back over kind of 60, 70 years, modern Western culture, views on sex and relationships, the do's and don'ts have changed hugely. And I think Christians have both gone with and gone against that. In one way we've gone against it, we've kind of panicked. Christians panicked when people started having sex outside of marriage, saying you didn't need to be married to have sex, saying marriage doesn't have to be between one man and one woman. And we kind of panicked and said, therefore we must keep on getting married in the right way, keeping sex in marriage. We must, in a sense, do it rightly and show how it's done rightly. And that begins to kind of elevate marriage as more important or better than singleness. We've kind of reacted against, but at the same time we've kind of gone with the flow, because our culture more and more has come to believe actually the true pinnacle in life is sex and romance, actually. That, you know, the truly fulfilled life is the sexually fulfilled life. And I think we as Christians have swallowed that idea and that lie, basically. And you get this kind of, you know, this idea in the church that actually, you know, the pinnacle of life is to be married and have good sex within your marriage. And so we've both reacted against culture, but also kind of absorbs ideas from our culture. And then I think that's led to us not having good kind of examples of single people. And actually the reality is there are lots of faithful single people in our churches, but rarely actually do single people get into leadership and stuff like that. So even though, especially in older generations, there are wonderful examples of faithful single people who love Jesus, have faithfully followed him, we tend to not notice it. And all the people you see on the platform, as it were, tend to be married, and that reinforces this message of that's Christian success. That's what we should be aiming for. That's interesting. So I think we reacted against and gone with culture, which is then fed into kind of church culture. And so we at least absorb this message that marriage is the goal, is better, and singleness isn't good.
And again, like we touched on it, didn't we, in the last episode? Jesus, you know, the most whole and fulfilled person who ever lived, who was single all his life. So it's just a key thing for us as Jesus followers. You know, we follow a person who was single and yet was not without intimacy, right? And we've touched on this in our conversation so far, but whilst we don't need sex for human fulfillment, we do need intimacy for human fulfillment, right? So, Andrew, how can we experience intimacy without sex or romantic relationships?
It's definitely got to start, hasn't it, from a expanding of our understanding of the concept of intimacy. Because we probably instinctively think sex when we think intimacy. We hear the phrase intimate relationship and we think, oh yeah, that means it's a sexual relationship. It's literally become the terminology in our culture. We think that sex is the only form of intimacy, but there are other forms of intimacy. We need to kind of open and expand our understanding. For example, there's conversational intimacy. Actually, we as humans develop deep connection intimacy through honest, deep, open conversation. As I share about my fears and my worries, my stresses and my joys in life with my closest friends, it's fostering intimacy because they're seeing the real me, get to know the real me, and that's a real way we deepen connection. Some people talk about domestic intimacy, the things of doing very normal life, but doing it together, being involved in each other's lives. So for me, peculiarly, one of my greatest experiences of intimacy is when I'm at my friend's house and I clean their kitchen, say, while they're putting the kids to bed, because I'm just being part of the family. I'm really within there, part of the family, part of the household. It's an experience of intimacy because I'm allowed to just be part of the family. Simple things like that actually can be experiences or expressions of intimacy. And I do think we also need to reclaim the idea of physical intimacy that isn't sexual. That actually there are forms of physical connection and interaction which are not sexual, and our culture is a bit kind of wary of those sometimes, or just doesn't believe they exist. We think all physical connection is sexual. That doesn't have to be the case. As you've nicely said, Jesus is the example here. He illustrates this, these intimate relationships, friendships. He's a man of friendship, and their relationships of deep love, which he actually says they should be. John 15, Jesus talks about friendship, our friendship with him, calls us to friendship with one another, tells us to love each other as he has loved us. That's like radical, self-sacrificial, expressed and experienced love. And friendship should be that, expressed and experienced love.
Absolutely, I mean, that's my experience in friendship, is that kind of love expressed experience, is that kind of non-sexual, non-romantic intimacy, but it still is intimacy. I would say that true intimacy, though, right, when you really get down to it, true intimacy is the intimacy that we have with Jesus. We need each other, we need other human relationships, we need friendships and all of that, but even more, we are made to have an intimacy with Jesus.
Yeah.
And so if we are looking for intimacy, that has to be the place that we start, is that relationship with Jesus, that intimacy with Jesus, like knowing him better, knowing him more.
Yeah, and I can't help but think, as you describe that, Ashleigh, of where the Apostle Paul says, you know, your grace is sufficient for me. You know, your power is made perfect in weakness. And actually, like, that intimacy with Jesus is sufficient, isn't it? Like that, like when we talk about your strongest desires and our deepest desire, ultimately our deepest desires, because it's what we've been made for, is intimacy with Jesus. And we can't be truly fulfilled until we have that. You know, we'll only be truly fulfilled in that space as well. So really, really helpful. Again, guys, thank you so much for that. Andrew, I'm also thinking, I saw you post on your socials a meme.
Yes, I love that.
So it said to the effect of, like, nobody ever talks about Jesus' greatest miracle, that he had 12 close friends in his 30s. And, like, you know, it's that friendship, isn't it? That intimacy we experience, like, yes, first with Jesus, and then out of that in community with others. So good, guys. Thank you so much. And so it's over to you again for this time for your discussion, questions, and remember, guys, that, you know, whoever you are, whatever your sexual desires, whether you're single or married, whether you would describe yourself as gay or straight, we can all find intimacy with one another, and intimacy with Jesus. So enjoy your conversation. Let's be kind, let's be gracious, let's be gentle, let's be truthful with our opinions and respectful of others who have got different opinions from our own. Have a great conversation, and we'll see you next time on the final episode of this series of Limitless TV.